From the Center for Conscious Communication, this is Leading Life. Hi everyone, my name is Stacy Carruth. I'm the founder of the Center for Conscious Communication, and this is Leading Life, a podcast spotlighting women business leaders who are making a difference, following their passion, and challenging the status quo. Today, I'm joined by Alicia Crispell, founder of Alicia Crispell Photography in Casper, Wyoming. For the last 14 years, on any given day, you can find Alicia in her portrait studio or in the great outdoors, photographing families, children, newborns, high school seniors, and engagement photographs. If you are one of her longtime clients or a more recent follower, you know Alicia has an eye for capturing and reflecting the beauty of everyone she photographs. Alicia's story, including the work ethic that has gotten her to where she is today, is as admirable as it is inspiring. I'm excited for Alicia to share her story here with you today on Leading Life. Welcome, Alicia.
I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad for you to be here too. Thank you for agreeing to be here on an early Monday morning.
Yeah, of course.
So I'd like to start at the beginning. I wonder for you, what did you study in school? And even more importantly, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, well, I always had a dream of being a mother, and I am. I have 3 beautiful children. And I feel like my dream evolved with the course of my life. So I grew up, my dad died when I was very young. I was 2 years old, and my mom kind of became nomadic. And so she moved all over the western part of the United States and then finally landed on the eastern part of the United States. I've had different people that have influenced me throughout my life. And yeah, I finally moved out west when I was a young teen, and my oldest brother finished raising me through, high school. And I had a teacher, Mr. Richardson. He was the art teacher, and he specifically taught digital photography and darkroom photography. And so he actually was my first influence towards the arts, in that, like, he was like, you really have an eye for photography. And he actually gave me my first camera. They were shifting old model cameras out and buying digital cameras for the classroom. And so he gave me one of the old cameras. Wow. And he's like, run with this. Like, you have an eye, you have a skill, a gift, go with it. And so that was the very beginning of my photography journey. I did at one point see myself as a nurse, and so very opposite spectrum jobs. And so after graduating high school, to back up a little bit, my junior year of high school, I started applying for the Daniels Fund Scholarship, which is a full ride scholarship. Mm-hmm. And so it's a 2-year application process. Oh, wow. And you're obligated to go to certain camps and meetings and put together a portfolio of applications to different schools, lots of essay writing, stuff like that. So essentially it's a huge advocacy book for yourself, like why you deserve to have this scholarship. And I actually ended up getting that scholarship.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
really?
And they only give it to, I believe it's 6 to 8 within the state. And so, it runs Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and they've probably added states since then. And so I ended up being a recipient of that scholarship, which was a huge blessing, because otherwise I had no means to go to college. I could have gotten maybe a handful of scholarships, but I wanted this one, right? So I could actually go. And I wanted to do a double major, nursing and photography. And I tried my freshman year, and it was daunting. like 22 credits is what I was taking.
Wow.
And nothing overlapped. Anatomy and physiology and darkroom studies, like nothing overlapped. And so my family pushed me to do, continue with nursing. They're like, what are you even going to do with a photography degree? Like, what are you, like, you're going to be poor all the time, so on and so forth. And so after that first year, I was like, I can't do this for 3 more years. There's no way. Like, I'm barely making it. Double majoring. And so kind of circling back, like my dream was to be an artist. And so I followed that dream and I dropped the nursing degree and I went full in fine art photography.
Wow. Well, that says a lot about your work ethic, I think, that you dedicated yourself to getting that scholarship so early in your life and being so directional. And also then going for art as well, because I have this image of being, very directional, knowing exactly what you want to do. And then art can be such a free form, kind of go with the flow kind of thing. So it seems like you balance those two things within yourself in this really beautiful way.
Thank you. Yeah. I think the whole process, I was able to follow my heart in all of it. And I feel like anyone in the art world is very much driven by heart.
So MSU was where you went.
MSU Bozeman, yeah.
Okay. And were you living in Casper at the time, or did you decide after MSU to move to Casper? How did that work?
So I was actually living in Douglas. I had moved in with my younger brother. He had an apartment there, and so during the summers I'd work at the coal mines. They had this crazy program, so if you had a parent or a guardian that worked at the coal mine, I don't even know if they still do it, they had a summer program, so you could come back and work, and then that was all my money. I saved all my money, lived with my brother, and then that was my money to ride me out through the school year. So
wow, I bet you made pretty good money in the coal mines. I'm guessing.
It was for, I think I was 18 when I went to college, and it was like $20 an hour, something like that.
Yeah, you don't make that as an 18-year-old generally.
No, but it was long, dirty days. I worked in the plant, and so we would hose down after a train would load. We would hose down all the coal debris so it wouldn't combust and create a fire. Wow. And so I would be covered like head to toe, like black soot everywhere.
You earned that $20 an hour.
I earned the $20 an hour. And I'd pick up extra shifts and just save as much as I could. So that way I wouldn't really have to work a ton during school. I could focus on school. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I really admire all of that. That is really incredible. Your work ethic is something you don't always see. So just to shout that out, that's really something. You knew that you wanted to be a photographer, and you like the darkroom and digital photography too, or how was that?
Yeah, so a combo of film and digital. So alt process photography is really where my passion was. So it's all of the processes from the beginning of times of photography. So cyanotype, gum dichromate, tintype, the list goes on. But that was my passion. But yes, dabbling in the digital realm, like and learning Photoshop and Lightroom was part of that process too. But my passion was the darkroom. Like that's where I spent most of my time. So, yeah. And I know that you do a lot of family photographs and seniors, I saw as well, and babies, some of the cutest little baby pictures ever. Is that what you were interested in school, or did you have something else in mind? No, so when I was in school, everything was super fine art. So my senior thesis project was the metamorphosis of a butterfly, but I used human women models, and I would take them to like these old barns, wrap them in tulle, and then use a really like slow shutter speed to make them look like they were flying. And so very conceptual art. It like was where I started, and that's where I was like, okay, when I graduate, like this is what I'm doing. I'm just going to create art. And then there was a huge like, what was the business side of this? Like I had no idea how to do that. So working for Audrey, I was like, okay, so this is how you make a living doing photography. You have to photograph people in kind of an element that they want to be in. So like the family portraiture and stuff like that. I kind of do a wide array of things, from like corporate headshots to newborn babies and seniors and engagements, weddings, all of the things. But it was more, how am I going to survive is kind of how my photography morphed quickly after I graduated MSU. And it's sad in a way because I've lost all of my, I don't have a dark room, and I'm not creating art for myself, which is in my radar. It's coming. Like that is where my passion is creating art. And I love photographing families and seniors and all of that, but it's just different. You're creating and you have expectations, your client has expectations for a photo shoot, whereas art it's very much more freeing. I can do whatever I want, and I don't care if someone buys it or not. And the sad part of that is I've kind of lost that piece of me, which I've been doing an Ayurvedic class. And it talks all about like the evolution of self, right? And how you don't have to think about, oh, I've lost that piece of myself. It just needed to sit aside for a moment, and it can always come back. And so just nurturing that is where my next step will be. So.
The practicalities of having a photography career and also holding this spot and looking into the future of how you're going to bring that very artistic and freeing part of you back that you got through this butterfly metamorphosis in school. I think that sounds incredible. I want to see that, actually.
Yeah, of course. I still have some of the pieces.
Oh, I would hope so.
Yeah, I've donated a lot to, I donated a bunch of them to a fundraiser for a cancer patient years ago, and they did really well. They raised quite a bit of money for...
Well, very generous of you as well. All of these parts and pieces are coming in and really painting a picture of you, Alicia. I love that. So let's go back to Audrey. Sure. So when you graduated from MSU and moved to Casper, not back to Douglas, but to Casper, you needed a job. So let's talk a little bit about that. What did that look like?
Yeah, I started searching. I applied for several different jobs. I even ended up working for the city of Casper for a little while until I could connect with Audrey. It took several months to connect with her because she was very busy doing her thing. So, I ran the rubber tire roller for the city of Casper for like 4 months.
Wow. Yeah. What is the rubber tire roller?
So the big rollers that they have that smash down the pavement after they lay fresh pavement. Yeah. Well, this is kind of a rendition of that, and it's for dirt. And so someone would go through and blade like an alley in Casper, and then go over it with the rubber tire roller and pack it down.
Oh my gosh, it's like your coal mine days are coming back in handy, right?
Yeah, I think that got me the job, right?
So had some experience in like heavy construction.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So I finally got a hold of Audrey, and she interviewed me. And yeah, I started working almost immediately after that because she had a position open up. And
so I just want to be clear, Audrey is Audie Jean.
Audie Jeans.
From Audie Jean Photography.
Yep, Audie Jeans Photography, and it's Audrey Jeans is her name.
Okay. And
she has been my kind of a slew of things in my life. So my boss, and then my mentor, and now one of my dearest friends. Mm-hmm. And so we still bounce ideas off of each other, and she really helped me get going on the business side of things. Like, how do you get clientele? Like, how do you keep clientele? Pricing structures for what makes sense for the output of work that you're creating. Yeah, a whole slew of things, like emotional support through all of it. I did subcontract work for her shortly after I left as an employee, her business. I was getting ready to have my daughter, Kata, my oldest, and so it was time to part ways because I knew that motherhood needed to, at that point, come first. Like, it was a brand new baby, first time mom. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was super excited. And I wanted something with flexibility to where I could still work because I love to contribute to the financial part of my, our household. But yeah, taking a step away, I subcontracted for her. So she would, have a stack of edits that needed to happen. And so remotely, she would send me photos and I would edit those orders and then send them back. Or order the product, like through her accounts and stuff like that. And then they would go directly to her studio. So I did that for a while. And then I had a toddler. And so things got a little crazy. But I did start building my clientele throughout that whole subcontracting process. And I think I was taking, it was hard. I was like handing out cards at the mall. Like, oh, you have a cute kid. Like, here you go. Like, trying not to be the creeper, right? But trying to advocate for myself. I just didn't know how else to kind of go about it. And so I started building clientele. I probably, the first year while subcontracting for Audrey, I probably had 10 photo shoots the first year. Which was like, this is never going to work. Mm-hmm.
It's a little discouraging.
Yeah. But still focusing, like my husband had a very lucrative job, and so I didn't have to make money. And that's not even what it was about for me. I wanted to build my own thing. Mm-hmm. Like I saw what Audrey had, and I was like, that's what I want. Now I know that's what I want for myself. When before I was like, no, I do not want my own business. But I found a sense of like freedom in it where I can make my own schedule and still be present for my daughter and contribute, right? And make art, but in a different way. So, yeah.
Kind of checked all the boxes.
Yeah, I checked all the boxes. And then, raising my daughter, like, I was like, okay, something's got to give. So, like, my fine art kind of went in a little sidebar. However, I regret not continuing with it. So,
yeah, maybe just having a little bit of that mixed in with the other photography that you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In hindsight, right?
Yeah. Well, we cannot, hindsight is 20/20 for sure.
Absolutely.
So when you graduated from school, you didn't have the idea that you were going to start a business. You really just were looking for a job where you could make some money. Mm-hmm. How long did you work for Audrey?
I worked for like 2.5, 3 years, and then subcontracted only for like 6 months maybe. Mm-hmm. So it was easier for her to have someone in-house editing. Mm-hmm. Being remote was a little bit more challenging, especially for specialty orders with lots of notes. Oftentimes I found myself calling to try to figure out like what was happening, like the specifics of the order.
Mm-hmm.
And so it became kind of cumbersome.
Right.
In a lot of ways. And
so it was time to transition.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah. And so my very first studio was in our very first house that we bought. I would take everything in the living room and put it in the garage and set up studio in the living room of my house.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And then later, my husband remodeled the garage, a 1-car garage, mind you. And that was my very first actual studio space.
Ooh.
So
it was cramped, I'm guessing. And at the same time, I would guess that it would be really liberating as well to have your own space and kind of a celebratory something.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was like, okay, here we go. This is the start, right?
So you had 10 clients in your first year, which really averages out to less than 1 per month, right?
Yeah.
And then it started to build.
It started to build. I probably doubled or tripled it within the next year. So word of mouth is what, because I wasn't using social media or anything like that. So word of mouth is, how I started kind of building. Mm-hmm. And I still was handing out my business card, like here and there. And by year 5, it exploded. Like I was busy. I was doing probably 5 to 6 shoots a week, which was a lot for, a beginning business, even though I was rolling for like 5 years. But, so it exploded from there. And then it's like I've built every year, and I get lots of new clientele, and I have lots of returning, loyal clients too. So.
Well, it says a lot about you as well, that people want to come back again.
Yeah.
So what were the major hurdles in your business? It sounds like it took 5 years, but then it really took off. But, looking back, what would you say are those stumbling points?
Definitely balancing motherhood and work life. That was one of the biggest challenges, and still wanting my business to, progress and grow, and not being able to say no to opportunity, and then trying to hone it back in and focus on my children. I think that has and still is one of the biggest hurdles of running my business, is being a mom and a business owner. Also, I guess another piece would be just trying to figure out the value. What's my value, right? What is my time worth? Because photography is very time intensive. It's not, I feel like there's kind of a misconception of all the time that goes into a photo shoot. So there's pre-planning with outfits and locations and making sure everyone's schedules align. And then the actual shoot itself, and then it's hours behind the computer afterwards, prepping the session for the client to even view, and then an ordering appointment, and then actually editing the product, and then getting the product to the client. So there's a lot of behind pieces so time, babies and time are huge hurdles. Yeah, and I think a hurdle that I am trying to overcome right now is focus. I'm trying to figure out if I want to niche and just focus on a certain clientele, or if I still want to continue to kind of be a jack of all trades, That's really challenging for me. We'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, still in process.
Yes.
Yeah, so you had your one daughter, and that's when you left Audrey and Audie Jeans, and then you had more kids after that as well. So you have 3.
Yes. So we actually left our first little house because we wanted to build our family. We wanted more children, and so we moved. We ended up keeping our little our little house. We were able to do that financially, so it worked out, and we turned it into a rental. And then shortly after we moved into our new house, we had my second daughter, Cambry. And so things became even more challenging.
Time.
Yeah, time. So, yeah, I mean, it's still a juggling act, and I think it will always be, and just prioritizing is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, so you had then a business and 2 kids and an extra house. And I think if I'm correct in this, you rented that house then. Is that?
Yeah. So we turned it into a long-term rental. And it did okay. We had some kind of bad experiences, but overall it was a good experience. And it currently, since last December, is now an Airbnb. And so it's doing really well now. So, yeah.
Yeah, so making the best of what you have as well.
Yeah, and we wanted to keep it too, because there was a sense of nostalgia with it. Like we brought our first daughter home. My first studio was there. Like, lots of memories still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that keeps you busy too, though. Is that true? I think when I talked to you, there was a lot of cleaning schedule and things that went into that too. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we actually have 2 rental properties that are Airbnbs. And I am currently managing both of those and running my photography business. Oh yeah, and I'm a mom. So it's a little wild, but yeah, I think it's challenging because I am currently doing all of the cleaning for that. So I'm taking on less photo shoots actually to try to balance out some of the busy. I don't really want to be that busy. I want to spend time with my kids. Right. I mean, kind of had like this 13th birthday for my oldest daughter. I was like, whoa, I only have 6 more years and then she's going to be off doing her own thing. And so, yeah, time is, so precious. So anyhow, yes, trying to get the Airbnbs off the ground. We literally just started one of them. We opened it and listed it on September 29th, and it booked on September 29th of last year, and it's just been packed since. So it's been really great.
Wow.
I started off my pricing a little low on the cleaning fee, and so I'm kind of eating that right now with my time until I get that balanced. Then I'll hire all of that out. So
it's a live and learn, though.
It is, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, we're busy with them. Like, we were nervous to do it because it's not guaranteed, right? It's not a guaranteed income. Just like the arts, it's not a guaranteed income. Like, people book you if they want to book you. Same with the Airbnbs. So it's a little risky, but with, risk comes reward.
Yeah. And you're making it work.
Yeah. Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just learning. I love that because I think it's so valuable for anyone who decides to start any kind of business to know it isn't going to be perfect the first day.
No.
Everything
Absolutely not.
evolves and we learn and evaluate and make adjustments and just keep going, right?
Yep, absolutely. Kind of go with the flow, and then things will forever change. If you're making changes, then that means you're kind of honing it down to make it your own. And I think that's really important in running your own business.
Right. And life changes. So you had a third baby too.
Yes.
Right?
So we had Creed.
I don't want to leave Creed out.
Yeah, no. He's so sweet. We added Creed. We were on the fence of whether we were going to have more children or not, because there's a 4-year gap between my middle daughter and Credence. And so God said we're having another baby. So we had another baby. And yeah, things got really crazy. I slowed down for a little bit, but with my photography business, and then yeah, we just kind of made it work. I've had amazing caregivers to my children throughout this whole process. So I'm very grateful for them. And yeah, my son starts kindergarten next month. It's crazy. So.
Well, and that's the evolution as well. Like, life evolves, our kids grow, things change with them all the time. We change. We have all of these things that, these dreams and, you know, the art for you and wanting to go back to that as well. And then the practicality of living life and taking care of things and being financially secure as well. And then just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Love that. It seems like you're very able, very capable of doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
So what do you love most about being a photographer?
Oftentimes people see their flaws, right? And I feel like when I look at someone, from an artist perspective, I'm like, wow, you're beautiful. Like, and let me tell you, let me show you how you're beautiful. And I can do that with a camera. And so I think that's a big piece for me. Bring someone to life through that. Like, seeing themselves in a different light, in a different perspective. I think ultimately that's what it's all about. Like, aside from, you know, the business end of it, I think that is kind of where my journey with portraiture started. Is like, wow, I can photograph you and make you see yourself how I see you. And I think that's a really special piece of it.
Wow, I love that, because I think, yes, we do. We tend to see our flaws, and when we can see ourselves in a photograph taken by someone who really knows what they're doing, it is a magic. There's almost a magic to it.
I've had people tell me that before. You're a magician with the camera. I was like, oh, thanks. I'll take it.
A friend told me years ago, you know, we don't see ourselves. We really don't see ourselves. We can see a reflection of ourselves in a mirror, but we don't actually, like, see ourselves.
Yeah, you can see the pieces, right? Yeah. But as a whole.
Yeah, we don't. So you can see people and then help them see themselves. Oh, I think that's beautiful.
Thanks.
So how would you say you've evolved as a photographer, or did you say portrait? How do you say that?
A portrait photographer?
Yeah.
Like portraiture?
Yeah, portraiture.
So the evolution. I would say my work has become definitely stronger. I look back at work when I first started in 2000. What year was that? Oh, wait, maybe I don't want to say that. The quality of my work has definitely evolved. And I think that's just experience and continual learning, trying new things. But I've gone to kind of starting as a big introvert and forcing myself to extrovert so I could connect with my clients. My clients have taught me so much about connection and perspective through their different personalities. I think everyone relates a bit differently, and our lenses are custom to ourselves. And so, like, a unique version of ourselves. And with an open heart and mind, true connection can emerge. So I feel like the connection with my clients is also a big piece of the love, right? And the evolution of my business. So it's more than just taking a photo.
So Alicia, it seems that you have these two threads that really run through your life that are incredibly important to you. I can feel how important your family is to you, and also your photography business and your art as well. So maybe even three threads in that. It's almost like your art and your business combined, but there's also like the separateness of that as well. So how does all of that braid together?
there's lots of overlap. So when my babies were little, I mean, I would be nursing and editing at the same time, or, you know, or I'd have a toddler climbing over top of me while I'm trying to send out emails. And so it is forever a battle to give each one enough attention for fruition, I guess you will say. But I'm learning, and a big goal this year is delegation. Like, I've tried so hard to I've put all the weight like on myself. Like, I need to be like the best mom and be present all the time, and we can't do daycare, but and then I was like, I can't do this without help. And so I would send delegation, but not without guilt. And so that was a whole other piece of I was trying to find balance in my work with my family, but then feeling guilty about, okay, well, I'm choosing work over my family. And so there's been this constant kind of, and like a tug pull in both directions. So even though both are fine, my business is doing fine, and my family, they're fine. Like, my kids are healthy and beautiful and talented and all the things, but like, there's this forever kind of pull, this shift between the two. It doesn't always feel good.
Yeah.
And so this year, through this Ayurvedic class that I have been taking, I found that like, I don't have to do it by myself. I can delegate, and that's okay. Like, I can delegate the things that make less sense for me to be doing. Not with the Airbnbs right now. We're just trying to get them off the ground, right? But those beginning stages of anything, I can later delegate to free up time. So yeah, there's that constant pull between the two. And it doesn't come without fail. Like, sometimes I'll miss a deadline, or I've never forgotten to pick up a child, but the deadline can be pushed. My kids will come first, so yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you put a lot of pressure on yourself to really live in alignment with your values, and kind of going back to that time thing, that there's only so much time to do so many things. And this idea, I think, that many of us women have, that we need to do it all perfectly.
Yeah. Perfectionism is crippling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think just doing the best that you can and realizing where you are needed most, prioritizing that is huge in raising a family and running a business.
If you could go back in time and have a talk with your younger self, I wonder what kind of advice you might give to you about life or your career.
Delegate from the get-go. Do what you're best at doing. All the pieces in between that is your time. Like, you can, kind of piece those out so you can be most present in the things that you're best at, or where you're needed most.
I wonder, it sounds like delegation to me sounds an awful lot like building a community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a start to that. Like, I potentially found someone to start doing my editing for my photography business. We need to set up a meeting and go through all the ins and outs of what that looks like. But it's a start. And then I've also delegated some of the cleaning for the Airbnbs to free up my time so I can be more present with my kiddos. Summertime is the most challenging, because everyone's home, right?
Right.
So this year is a time for more growth and evolution in both family life and business life. So
Well, thank you, Alicia. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your vulnerability, for really just sharing how it is. I think, we can get very caught up in just the glamorous, especially we have this idea that life is just beautiful and wonderful because that's what we see on social media.
Right.
And I think there's something really valuable about really sharing our stories and knowing that, yes, life is beautiful and we have a lot to be grateful for. And there are challenges and regrets and hard times too. And it's important to hear that. And I really appreciate that you were willing to share your story.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully this can help someone or encourage someone to, follow their passion and start their own journey, knowing that there will be challenges, but also with great risk comes great reward. So
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
That's a beautiful place to end. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Leading Life, a production by the Center for Conscious Communication, hosted by me, Stacy Caruth. If you like today's show, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And while you're there, don't forget to rate and review us. We love seeing you spread the word on social media. You can find us at the Center for Conscious Communication on Instagram and Facebook. We always want to know who you're interested in hearing on the show, so send in your requests to Stacy at thecenterforconsciouscom.com. That's COMM.com. This episode was produced by Stacy Caruth and Ty Pierce. I'd like to thank Ty for his artwork and technical guidance. Music by Marcus Way. I'm Stacy Caruth, and you've been listening to Leading Life. And now for a mindful moment. Most of us spend a lot of time trying to repress or invalidate our feelings, saying things like, I shouldn't feel this way, or I'm fine, when I'm really not fine. As we grew up, many of us were taught to hide or stuff our feelings with directives like, calm down, or stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. But feelings, even the hard ones, are natural, and they're a valuable part of being human. Valuable because they hold so much information. They tell us what we want more of in our lives, they're windows to what we're thinking, and they clue us in to what doesn't work or where we may need to create some healthy boundaries. That's why I want to spend a mindful moment sharing a few ways I notice my feelings and you might like to try as well. And then stay tuned for upcoming podcasts where I'll share how to interpret the messages that are held within our feelings. There are two questions I ask myself on purpose throughout the day, often when I'm driving, I'm waking up in the morning, or I'm going to bed at night, or when I notice a more intense feeling bubbling up. These can be asked separately, together, or interchangeably. Sometimes I simply ask myself, how am I feeling right now? Other times I start with, how am I feeling in my body? I notice I'm feeling something. What is that and where? Let's start with the second. Feelings aren't just in our minds. They are actual vibrations that cause sensation in our body. Taking a minute to notice where I'm feeling a sensation gives me a chance to enjoy the fun feelings even more, or breathe into, move, or relieve the unpleasant feelings in some way. Sensation words can include things like light, tingly, bubbly, or heavy, hot, or tense. It might be, I notice that I'm clenching my jaw, or there are butterflies in my belly, or pressure in my chest. One of the many benefits about getting more familiar with our feelings is they're less scary. And when they're less scary, when we're less afraid of them, then we're more likely to hear the messages that they're trying to tell us. We can put words to our feelings too. By simply naming how we feel, it helps relieve the intensity of it. This is because when we name what we're feeling, our brain no longer attaches it to who we are, but instead simply a feeling that we're experiencing. So by simply asking myself, how am I feeling right now? I'm less at the mercy of my feelings because I'm more aware. The trick here is to name the feeling as accurately as possible. Most times this requires that I sit with it to get under that initial feeling that comes up. It takes a little bit of time to begin with, but with practice, it's pretty quick. For example, if I'm mad because someone cut me off in traffic, I can go beyond that feeling of mad and discover that I'm actually scared. If I'm feeling stressed out at work and I take a minute, I might discover I'm feeling guilty about not spending enough time at home, or I'm worried that I'm not measuring up. When I notice I'm in a good mood and I explore it a little bit more, I might find that I'm feeling relieved, excited, or hopeful. Growing our emotional vocabulary gives us so much more information about ourselves, who we are, what's important to us, and with practice, it even helps ground us in the midst of challenging circumstances. Whether you avoid your feelings at all costs, or you feel them, but you don't know what the meaning is, learning to feel the sensations in your body and name them in a word is a vital step towards knowing yourself better, more of what you want in your life, and recognizing thoughts that may not be serving you. I hope you'll take a mindful minute or two out of your busy summer schedule to notice your feelings. For a long list of feeling words you may not have thought of, visit my website under Resources, where you'll find a couple of lists you can print or snap a picture of to refer to throughout your upcoming days.